Hey guys, it's Claudia again, and welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. Today we will be making cards. These are good for any occasion, but with Mother's Day coming up, I wanted to focus on that occasion. The first card we are going to make is called Watercolor Doodles. Totally made that up. For supplies, you will need a watercolor brush, some watercolor paints, a cup of water, some watercolor paper, whatever size you have, some scissors, double-sided tape, a black marker to write with, and a piece of colored cardstock. You will also need a paper towel or a rag or something to wipe the paint off with. Now here I'm just going to measure my cardstock. I folded a 8.5 by 11 sheet in half, and now I'm going to make sure that both my watercolor paper and my cardstock are the same height. So I'm putting my watercolor paper on top of the cardstock, measuring the line, and then cutting it off, just like that. Now you can see they are similar sizes. I have a little bit of excess, but I'll leave that there and cut it off later. For the watercolor painting, we are going to do a wet to wet technique. So see how I'm just adding some water onto the paper. Very little bit of water. You don't want to add too much water or your paints are going to not run very well. It's going to look very blotty. So here I'm just starting with a yellow color. I'm starting with my lighter color first, and then I'm working into my darker colors. So again, put some water onto the paper and make it wet, and then apply some water to the paint to make it wet, and then apply the wet paint onto the wet paper. You can see that my paper is starting to bend a little bit, and this is because the weight of the paint and the water makes it sag. You can tape it down, but I didn't want a border, so I don't want to tape it down. I'm just going to stick it onto the card so it's not so bad. Once it dries, what you can do is apply a book on it and it'll flatten it out. So now I'm going to put my paints and my water and my brush away after cleaning up, and I'm going to put my paper aside to dry. While it dries, I'm going to work on the inside of the card. So here I have my folded piece of cardstock that's cut to size. Taking my black marker, I'm going to write Happy Mother's Day. Of course, you can write whatever you want for the occasion that you're making the card for. Now I don't have the prettiest handwriting, but that's okay if you don't either. I wanted the card to look very handmade, so whatever handwriting you have, it's just going to add some more charm to the card. Make it feel like you put a little bit of more love into it, a little bit more you. Now at the bottom, I'm going to do some gem doodles, and that's going to match the pun that I write on the front of the card. So I just found these doodles online, and I tried to make something similar. I just Google searched gem doodles, and then at the bottom I'll just write my name. Now using some double-sided sticky tape, I am going to start applying it to the edge of the front of the cardstock, and make sure you figure out which one's the front and which one's the back, because you don't want to apply the sticky tape to the back of the card. Okay, so I'm going to do this for all of them, making sure that I get close to the edge. Then I'm going to take off my double-sided tape and apply my dry, flat watercolor paper. Now making sure that the bottom left-hand corners are lined up and just pressing it all around. And now I'm going to cut off any excess paper or trim any edges that aren't straight. And on the front, I just wrote this funny thing, "You are a gem," and then drew some more gems at the bottom to tie in with the gems that I drew in the inside of the card. And I like doing this rock detail at the bottom to make it look like they're coming out of the ground. I just had a lot of fun being creative and figuring out whatever design I wanted, and I hope you have fun doodling as well. I added some more details because I wanted to fill in some empty spots of the card, but I also wanted to leave enough space where I could write a meaningful message on the inside. And here I have my finished design. The second card I'm going to show you how to make is called pop-out letters. As you can see, the letters pop out from the back of the card. And this one's a lot more difficult to make. For supplies, you will need a pencil and eraser, scissors or X-acto knife, double-sided tape, markers, 3 pieces of colored cardstock, they can be different colors, and a ruler. Let's get started. So I'm taking 2 pieces of cardstock and I'm just making sure that they are to size. Now my white piece of cardstock is going to be my inside and my blue piece is going to be the outside of the card. So I'm taking my white piece, folding it in half and making a firm crease. Now I'm opening it up and taking my ruler and pencil and I'm going to start making equal markings for my letters. And I have 3 letters, M-O-M, mom. So I'm starting a 1/2 inch from the left edge all the way to the end of the other side. And I'm marking 1/2 inches for each line of the letter, something like this. And I'll have to show you later in the video of how the letters come together and it'll kind of make sense. So if you want to watch the video through once and come back, I suggest that. Now I'm going to fold it opposite way so that the markings I just made are on the outside, not the inside. Now taking my ruler, I'm measuring 1 inch from the crease and then I'm drawing a line straight down so I have a straight line to follow. And then I'm going to cut all of those 1/2 inch lines so they all meet that straight line I just drew down. I don't want different lengths of those pop out lines, those pieces that are going to pop out. I want them all to be equal sizes, they're equal lengths, okay? So I'm just taking my time, slowly cutting each line to make sure that it meets that 1 inch inside. Okay, now you're going to open your card up and start kind of bending it back and forth to loosen the lines that you just cut. Then I'm going to fold, remember that line that we drew? I'm going to fold along that line on both sides. So I only made a line on one side, but you can kind of see where a line would be from where your cuts end. And I'm folding it like this. Okay, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get those pieces that I cut to pop out. So here, just follow along with me. It should be something like this. Okay, your pieces should start to bend with a crease in the middle. Like I said, this is a little complicated, guys. Now I'm just making sure that I cut all my lines correctly, that I have enough lines that are popping out for my letters, and I'm pushing the ones that I don't need for my letters backward so that they sit in the back. If you mess up, you can definitely start over. Okay, so it should be looking something like this. Folding it in half and boom, I have those lines that are popping out and the lines that are staying in the back. Now I am applying my double-sided tape to the edges of the back of the white piece of paper because I'm going to stick my colored cardstock on top of that. If you don't have double-sided tape, you could just use a glue stick. I don't like using liquid glue because it makes bumps in the paper. It's very hard to create a flat surface with liquid glue. So any kind of glue stick or tape is great. I'm also applying a little bit of tape in the middle of each side of the paper because I want more support. Before I peel off my tape side, I'm going through and erasing all those pencil marks. Now I'm only working half a page at a time. Okay, so I peeled off the tape on only one side of my card. So I'm applying the cardstock to half the card at a time. That way I make sure that all the edges and lines are straight and line up together. So here I am finishing this corner. And when I'm done, I'm going to fold it in half and firmly crease. Now I have my card. It's going to open up like this, and the lines you see are going to be where the letters are going to be applied. Boop, 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 boop. Pretty cool, huh? Now with your third piece of cardstock, we are going to cut out the letters. So I went ahead and just made a straight line at the bottom where I'm going to draw my letters upward from there, and I'm drawing block letters, meaning they have straight lines, no curves. Okay. Now I'm measuring my pop-out lines, which are about 2 inches, because I want my letters to be taller than my lines. Otherwise, you will be able to see past them, and it's not going to be a cool effect. So I measured it about 3.5 inches up from the first line I drew, and now I'm going to draw another straight line to make sure my letters fit between those two lines. Here you can see those measurements and where I started to make my letters. Now I made my letters a 1/2 inch thick strokes with a 1/2 inch spacing in between. Okay, the X's represent the spaces that I'm going to cut out. So I have my M, my O, and then a space for another M, which I'm just going to trace later. Now I'm cutting out my letters, and for the O, just kind of hold it in between your fingers like I do, and then snip out the inside of the O, and you'll get a really nice cut. And here I have Mom. Now I'm going to stick my letters onto the pop-out lines for the card. So using my double-sided tape, I'm going to line them up just like that. I hope this makes sense now. So I'm taking my double-sided tape and putting it on the lines so I don't have to measure where they are on the letters themselves. I'm just sticking it in, and now I'm just making sure that they're doing what I want them to do. So now we're going to decorate the front of the card. I'm just going to write this silly thing that says, what do they call superheroes who wear jeans? I thought it was a cute thing. I don't know, it just came to me. You can write whatever you want, of course, but the pop-out letters were just screaming comic book to me. So I'm also going to draw a speech bubble around the words so it looks like it's coming from a comic strip. And here we are. That was very complicated, but this card is super cool. Now you have a little space at the bottom to write your message. Well, that's it for this week's Workshop Wednesday. Make sure to share your art and tag us at the IMAS Museum using the hashtag IMASArtist. To learn more and to support, visit us at theimasonline.org. Thanks so much for joining. I'll see you next week.